All right, y'all. This one's going to sound like something out of a bad family drama, but I swear, this is my life right now. Imagine waking up one day and finding out that the money your grandparents left you, the money you were counting on for your future, is just gone. And worse, it wasn't stolen by some random scammer or lost in a freak accident. Nope, it was handed over to someone else without your consent. And not just anyone, your own brother. For some context, 30F have always been the responsible one in my family. You know the type. Good grades, a decent job, never really asked for much. My older brother Mike, 33M, on the other hand, oh, he's the golden child. The one my parents are always bending over backward for, even when he's screwing up left and right. If I needed to scrape together money for school supplies as a kid, they'd tell me to make do. But if Mike wanted a new Xbox, boom, somehow the funds appeared like magic. It's been like this my whole life. But I tried not to let it get to me too much. I've worked hard to carve out my own little corner of stability. My grandparents were a big part of that. They weren't rich or anything, but they believed in saving and left behind a modest inheritance for both me and Mike. It wasn't enough to retire on, but it was enough to give me a sense of security. I'd been saving that money for years, knowing I could use it one day to buy a house, start a business, or just keep it as a safety net. And the best part? My grandparents made it crystal clear that this money was for us to be split equally and used however we saw fit. No strings attached, or so I thought. So, this all came to light a few weeks ago. It started when I was at a family barbecue. You know, one of those big chaotic gatherings where everyone's talking over each other and you can barely keep track of who's saying what. I was in the kitchen helping my aunt with the potato salad when she casually dropped the bomb. She goes, "I hope Mike's business turns around soon. Your parents did the right thing helping him out with that inheritance money." I froze mid-stir. "Wait, what?" I asked, trying to keep my voice calm even though my heart was already racing. She looked at me like I'd just asked her if the sky was blue. "Yeah, they gave him your grandparents' money to invest in his business. Didn't they tell you?" I couldn't even process what she was saying. I stood there in shock, spoon in hand, while she kept rambling about how hard it is to run a business these days, and how your parents are such good people for stepping in to help. At that point, I excused myself and went outside to find some air before I completely lost it in front of everyone. The rest of the barbecue was a blur. I kept glancing at Mike, who was laughing it up with his buddies like he didn't have a care in the world. Meanwhile, I was sitting there wondering how the hell my parents could just give away my money without even asking me. The next day, I drove over to my parents' house because I couldn't let it go. I needed answers. My mom answered the door, all smiles, and said, "Oh, sweetie, what a nice surprise." Yeah, surprise indeed. I sat them down in the living room and got straight to the point. "Did you give Mike my inheritance money?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady, even though I was shaking with anger. My mom and dad exchanged a quick glance, and that was all I needed to confirm it. My dad cleared his throat and said, "Well, technically, it was never just yours. It was for both of you, and we thought Mike needed it more." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. "You thought he needed it more? So you just gave it to him, without even telling me?" My mom tried to jump in, saying, "Sweetie, we didn't think you'd mind. You've always been so responsible, and Mike has been struggling with his business. We just wanted to help him get back on his feet." I was floored. "You didn't think I'd mind? That money was for my future. It wasn't yours to give away." My dad tried to play the voice of reason. "We thought it was the best decision for the family. Mike's business has potential, and he just needed a little boost." I couldn't even look at them. I felt like the ground had been ripped out from under me. Years of careful planning, saving and hoping, gone, just like that. And for what? To fund yet another one of Mike's doomed ventures. I asked them point blank, "How much did you give him?" My mom hesitated, then said, "All of it. All of it." I couldn't breathe. "You gave him all of it? Every single penny?" They nodded, and my dad said, "We're sorry if this upset you, but Mike really needed it. You're doing fine without it, aren't you?" Oh, that was the kicker. Doing fine without it? Like my hard work meant I somehow didn't deserve what was rightfully mine? I was so angry I couldn't even form coherent sentences. I just grabbed my bag and left before I said something I'd regret. On the drive home, all I could think about was how unfair it all was. They'd handed everything over to Mike, the guy who couldn't keep a job for more than 6 months, who's blown through every penny he's ever made, and they didn't even think to ask me first. They just assumed I'd be okay with it. Like my future didn't matter as much as his potential. And you know what makes it even worse? They probably didn't even tell me because they knew I'd say no. They knew I'd see it for what it was, enabling. Mike has always been the screw-up, and instead of letting him face the consequences of his actions, they bailed him out. Again. Only this time, they used my money to do it. I still haven't fully confronted Mike about it. I don't even know what I'd say. Part of me wants to scream at him for being so selfish, but another part of me knows it won't make a difference. He's always had this entitlement complex, like the world owes him something, and my parents have only made it worse. I don't know what to do now. The money is gone, and there's no getting it back. But what I can't stop thinking about is the betrayal. The fact that my own parents went behind my back and made a decision that completely derailed my future, all to save a business that was doomed from the start. Reddit, am I crazy for being this upset? What would you do if you were in my shoes? Because right now, I'm seriously considering cutting them all off. I can't keep being the responsible one when all it gets me is the short end of the stick. Trust me, things only get worse from here. After leaving my parents' house, I spent the entire drive home trying to calm down, but it was useless. I kept replaying their words in my head. Mike needed it more. We thought you wouldn't mind. You're doing fine without it. Like, how do you even process that kind of betrayal? This wasn't a minor decision. They gave away everything my grandparents had left me, and they didn't even have the decency to let me know. I decided I needed some time to cool off before confronting Mike directly, so I spent the next few days trying to focus on work and distract myself. But that didn't last long, because about a week later I got a call from my mom. I almost didn't answer, but curiosity got the better of me. Big mistake. She started with her usual fake cheery voice. "Hi, sweetie, how are you?" I cut her off immediately. "What do you want, Mom?" She sighed like I was the one being unreasonable and said, "We need to talk about your brother." My stomach dropped. I already knew this wasn't going anywhere good. Apparently Mike's business had officially gone under. Bankrupt. Done. Every cent my parents gave him, my inheritance, was gone. And now, on top of that, he'd racked up additional debts trying to keep the business afloat. My mom sounded frantic, going on and on about how Mike was struggling and how badly he needed help. And then she hit me with it. We were thinking maybe you could step in and help him out, just until he gets back on his feet. I actually laughed out loud, like a full-on, "Are you kidding me?" laugh. "You want me to help him after you gave him all my money? Are you serious right now?" She sounded offended, like I was the one being unreasonable. "He's your brother, and he's in a tough spot. We're family. We have to support each other." "Support each other?" I snapped. "You mean like how you supported me by giving away my inheritance without asking? Is that the kind of support you're talking about?" She started going on about how Mike was trying his best and how he just made some bad decisions. I couldn't take it anymore. I said, "No, Mom. You made bad decisions. You and Dad chose to give him that money, and now you want me to clean up the mess? Absolutely not." And then came the guilt trip. "Don't you care about your family? Mike is struggling, and you're just going to turn your back on him. What would your grandparents think if they saw you acting like this?" Oh, that one hit a nerve. What would they think? I'll tell you what they'd think. They'd be disgusted. They trusted you to handle their money responsibly, and instead, you handed it all over to Mike like it was Monopoly cash. Do not bring them into this. At this point, she was crying, which used to make me feel guilty, but now I was just done. She said, "I don't know how you can be so cold. He's your brother." And I just snapped. "You know what, Mom? He's not my responsibility. You made this mess, and you can figure it out. Don't call me again about this." And then I hung up. A few hours later, Mike called me. I almost didn't answer, but I figured he'd just keep trying until I picked up. As soon as I said hello, He launched into this whole sob story about how hard things have been for him, how the economy screwed him over, and how he's trying so hard to make things right. I let him ramble for a bit, and then I asked, "What do you want, Mike?" He hesitated for a second and then said, "I was wondering if you could loan me some money, just enough to get by until I figure things out." I couldn't believe it. "Are you serious? After everything? After you took my inheritance and blew it, you think I'm going to give you more money?" He got defensive immediately. "I didn't take anything. Mom and Dad gave me that money because they believed in me. I didn't ask for this to happen." "Didn't ask for it to happen," I said. "Mike, you're a grown man. You made your choices, and now you have to deal with the consequences. I'm not your safety net." He started getting angry, saying things like, "I thought you'd be more understanding. You're doing fine. What's a little money to you?" And that's when I lost it. "You think I'm doing fine? You think I don't need that money? I was counting on it for my future, Mike, for a house, for security. But you and Mom and Dad decided that your business was more important than my life. So no, I'm not doing fine, and I'm sure as hell not giving you a dime." He called me selfish, said I was turning my back on family and that I was kicking him while he's down. I told him, "You're down because of your own choices, Mike, not mine. Don't call me again." And I hung up. Since then, my parents have been texting and calling non-stop, trying to get me to see reason. They keep saying things like, "Mike just needs a little help," and "We're all in this together." But I'm not budging. I've worked too hard to let their bad decisions ruin my life. Reddit, am I wrong for cutting them off? Part of me feels guilty, but at the same time, I know this isn't my responsibility. What would you do in my shoes? Because I'm seriously at the end of my rope here. TLDR, my parents gave my inheritance to my brother's failing business without asking me. Now he's bankrupt and they want me to bail him out. I said no, and now the whole family is calling me selfish.